Welcome back, deep divers. Today, we're going down a fascinating rabbit hole, the world of MDMA.
MDMA. You mean like ecstasy?
Well, yeah, it's got that reputation,
A
but
party drug.
exactly. But stick with me. What if I told you this same substance is showing serious potential in treating PTSD?
Really? That's pretty surprising.
Right. It's a total mind bender. So you send in this awesome YouTube video, MDMA synthesis in 3 steps, and it also talks about PTSD therapy from a channel called Total Synthesis.
Catchy name.
Right. So we're going to unpack all that, the chemistry side and the clinical trials, and
It's a lot to cover.
it is, but this video does such a good job, really concise. Okay, so first things first, busting some myths. MDMA, it wasn't some government experiment gone wrong, right?
No, not at all. Way back in the early 1900s, a German company, Merck, they were working on hydrostine.
Hydrocene. Okay, and
These
that's,
used to stop bleeding, but the plant source was getting hard to come by.
so they needed to synthesize it, make it in the lab.
Yeah, cut costs, that kind of thing.
Makes sense. So how did MDMA even pop up?
One of their chemists, kind of a side product, just a byproduct of the hydrostine work. They even patented it back in 1912.
Wow, 1912.
Yep, but nobody really knew what to do with it back then. I mean, imagine that, huh? Stumbling onto this.
Totally missed opportunity.
Absolutely. But anyway, the video dives into how to actually make MDMA 3 different ways.
Oh, okay, so like chemistry class time.
Well, not too hardcore, don't worry.
Good,
So
because
the first way, the old Merck method, they used something called saffrol.
saffrol sounds kind of nice.
It does. It comes from a plant and has this, I think they said a candy shop aroma.
Interesting.
Yeah, but turns out it's not so good for you health-wise. They found a link to liver cancer, so that method's out.
Makes sense. What about the other 2 methods? What's different?
Second one's a bit trickier. Starts with piperonal, not saffrol. Less bromine stuff, which is good, but more redox chemistry.
Redox. That rings a bell vaguely from high school chem. But what about that third method, the one from MAPS PBC?
Ah, no, that one's really interesting. They're the first to actually make MDMA on a large scale, like kilogram quantities, all above board, legally.
So for research purposes then.
Exactly. And they figured out a way to do it with super high purity, over 99.4%.
Wow, that's got to be important for clinical trials, right? Making sure it's
Absolutely safety first. But before we go there, we got to talk about PTSD itself.
right. Like, why is MDMA even being considered for this?
Well, the numbers are pretty staggering. The video mentioned something like 6-7% of people in the US will experience PTSD at some point in their lives.
That many.
And for a third of those people, it's severe PTSD, not just like a few bad memories, really debilitating stuff.
Wow, that puts it in perspective.
Yeah, and current treatments aren't always effective, especially for those severe cases.
Right.
So there's a real need for something new. And that's where MDMA comes in.
Okay, now I'm really curious. Let's talk about these clinical trials.
All right, so this one trial, they took a bunch of patients, all with severe chronic PTSD, and they split them into 2 groups randomly. One group got MDMA alongside therapy, and the other just got therapy alone, like a control group.
Gotcha. So a way to compare and see if the MDMA actually makes a difference.
Exactly. And neither the patients nor the researchers knew who was getting what. They called it a double-blind study, I think. Prevents bias.
Clever.
No.
So what were the results like? What happened to the people who took the MDMA?
Well, they were measuring a couple things. One was called the CIPS-5 score, which is basically how bad their PTSD is.
Right, like a rating system.
Yeah, and then also the Beck Depression Inventory, because, depression often goes along with PTSD.
Of course. So before the trial started, those scores were pretty high, right? I mean, these are people with severe cases.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Chronic PTSD, they called it. Like, it had been going on for years.
And then what happened after the MDMA sessions, combined with the therapy, I mean?
Well, the MDMA group, their scores dropped way more than the therapy-only group.
Okay, but like, how much more? Was it a small change or a big one?
Oh, it was a huge difference. Like, almost 40% of the people in the MDMA group, they didn't even meet the criteria for PTSD anymore.
Wait, what? Seriously?
Yeah, they're basically considered PTSD-free, at least according to the CIPS-5.
That's incredible. And the other group, the ones without MDMA, did they get better at all?
Yeah, therapy does help, but it wasn't nearly as dramatic as the MDMA group.
Wow, it makes you wonder why this hasn't been researched more.
Right, I mean, it's been around for over a century, like we said.
It's got to be the stigma, right? People just thinking of it as a party drug.
Yeah, probably a lot of that. And, legal issues, funding for research, all that stuff plays a role.
Okay, but hold on. Even if it works,
Yeah.
isn't there like a safety concern? I mean, we are talking about MDMA.
Totally valid point. But in the trial, the video said it had a pretty good safety profile, at least short term.
Meaning,
Like some people got muscle tightness, appetite changes, stuff like that, but mostly mild and went away quick.
so no serious, adverse events.
Actually, the only serious things that happened, like suicide attempts, those were in the placebo group, the ones without MDMA.
It's pretty telling.
Yeah.
I mean, it suggests that maybe it's even safer in some ways than not using it, at least for certain people.
Yeah, it's definitely thought-provoking. The video talks about this idea of neuroplasticity, like MDMA might be helping the brain rewire itself.
Okay, hold up. Neuroplasticity, that's,
Basically, how adaptable your brain is, its ability to change and form new connections.
so the MDMA is like greasing the wheels or something.
Kind of, yeah. It might be creating the conditions where those traumatic memories can be processed without, overwhelming the person.
So not erasing the memories, but changing how they affect you.
Right, exactly. It's about integration, helping those memories fit into your life without causing so much distress.
This is wild. It all started with trying to make a medicine to stop bleeding, and now we're talking about, rewiring the brain.
Crazy, right? Science is full of surprises. And speaking of breakthroughs, the FDA gave MDMA-assisted therapy this breakthrough designation back in 2017.
Breakthrough. Is it close to being an actual treatment then?
It's a big step towards that. Means the FDA sees the potential and is speeding up the approval process. In fact, MAPS, PBC, that company we mentioned, they're planning to file for full approval soon.
Wow, so we could see this therapy being available, legitimately prescribed in the not-too-distant future.
It's looking that way, yeah. Which, of course, brings up a whole other set of questions, right?
Yeah, like regulation, access, making sure it doesn't get abused.
Exactly. We got to think about those things carefully.
Definitely. But I gotta say, I started out skeptical, and now I'm kind of blown away by the potential here. This could be a game changer for so many people.
It really could. It shows how important it is to keep an open mind, Question our assumptions, look at the evidence, even if it's uncomfortable or goes against what we thought we knew.
Totally agree. Well, this has been one heck of a deep dive. We've covered so much ground, from the nitty-gritty chemistry to the profound human impact.
And we haven't even touched on everything the video mentioned. It's such a rich topic with so many layers.
All right, well, on that note, let's take a moment to gather our thoughts, and then we'll come back with some final reflections and wrap things up. All right, deep divers, back again for the final stretch of our MDMA exploration. From a lab accident to a potential PTSD breakthrough, it's been quite the journey, right?
It really makes you think, what else is out there just waiting to be discovered?
Right. What other substances have we totally misjudged? But let's not get too sidetracked. We still got to talk about the big picture here. MDMA therapy. If it does become widely available, what do you think? What are the implications?
Well, on one hand, you've got this huge potential benefit. I mean, millions of people suffering from PTSD. Imagine if they could actually find relief, get their lives back.
That's the dream, right? But we talked about the risks, too. Abuse potential, making sure it's used responsibly.
Definitely. Can't just hand it out like candy. It's a powerful tool, got to be careful. And the thing is, this kind of therapy, it's not for everyone, right? Needs careful screening, ethical guidelines, all that stuff.
Finding that balance, that's the key, I guess. The good and the bad got to weigh it all.
Exactly. And it's not just scientists and doctors who need to be involved in this conversation. Policymakers, the public, everybody's got a stake in this.
So big picture for our listeners out there, what should they take away from all this? What should they be thinking about as they, continue to learn about MDMA and its potential?
I think the most important thing is keep an open mind, but be critical too. Don't just accept everything you hear, question your assumptions, look at the evidence, even if it challenges what you thought you knew.
That's what the deep dive is all about.
Yeah.
Going deeper, asking the tough questions. And let's be honest, we barely scratched the surface here.
Oh yeah, tons more research to be done. But it's exciting, right? Seeing this kind of progress, the possibility of real change for people who are struggling.
Absolutely. Well said. So, to everyone listening, the story of MDMA, it's a wild one, full of twists and turns. Keep learning, keep questioning, and think about this. What role should MDMA play in the future of mental health? It's a big question, and there's no easy answer.
And that's okay. That's what makes it so fascinating. The journey of discovery, it's ongoing. Stay curious, deep divers.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That's a wrap for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, keep those brains buzzing.